I'm going to call our meeting to order this evening. Thank you for being here. Today is our Tuesday, May 18th City Commission meeting for the City of Treasure Island. For those who are or may want to join online, or remotely, we have several ways to do that. You can join by GoToMeeting by going to global.gotomeeting.com/join/123626477, or you can dial in by using your phone by calling the phone number 571-317-3112 using access code 936-305-077. And that way you can participate remotely and give your public comment. If you're on the phone, please just unmute yourself and speak up during the item you want to speak on. If you are on your computer, you may enter in the chat box which item you'd like to give your comments on. So we will get started with our Pledge of Allegiance. So please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk, can we have the roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Toth?
Here.
Commissioner Doctor?
Here.
Commissioner Partridge?
Here.
Commissioner Wetzel?
Here.
Mayor Payne?
Here.
Thank you.
All right, next is approval of regular and workshop agendas. Is everyone okay with moving up our city commission reports to immediately after public comments on non-agenda items? Hopefully for the last time.
I like it.
Okay.
Well, then we're
Any
gonna
other?
make that, we're gonna make that permanent then?
Tonight, that will be what we'll be voting on, yep.
Okay, good.
Any other adjustments to the agendas? All right, hearing none, we'll go forward. Under proclamations, recognitions, and certificates of appreciation, I believe we have Heidi Horak to give a mention of appreciation.
So, Stacy Boyles, from Assistant Public Works Director, come on up. You're up first anyway. She and I got our heads together and entered into a little project down on the third parking lot on Sunset Beach, which is, I'll probably say this wrong, the Ring-Billed Gull parking lot, which was redone with permeable paving and about 2 years ago. 2018, and in conjunction with that project, which was the end of a long stormwater project on Sunset Beach, they put in a couple little gardens, one of them a rain garden, which is meant to temporarily hold water, and that was planted with native plants originally. And what happened after that, I'll let Stacy introduce, and then I'll tell you what the community pitched in to do to make it better. Okay? Maybe if somebody could jump up and get the lights. Gary, could you get the lights for us? We have a few slides of sort of before and after. And then the first one I see there is our crew. So.
Thanks, Heidi. So we've talked a little bit before about developing different plant palettes for different areas of the cities, and we're still working on expanding those palettes, but this is one of the first ones we did, and it's for waterfront or beachfront areas that are meant to look like an expansion of the dunes. So we use plants that you would find in a dune environment, and in the rain garden that Heidi mentioned, we also looked for things that could do well during conditions of inundation as well. So, so those plants were doing pretty well, but they're also, often choked out by invasive species. And we only have 6 people in our grounds maintenance crew to do the whole city, and so even a smaller area like this takes a significant amount of time. So having people willing to step up and volunteer and help us to control those is really meaningful and helpful. So even though we're controlling the types of plants that we plant here in these areas, because other people don't know about invasive plants, and that's what when you go to Home Depot and you go to look and see what to buy, oh, that looks pretty or that's inexpensive, oftentimes those are things that are not necessarily good and that are gonna spread. So you're still getting in our native areas stuff that's flying in from other nearby houses. So we just wanted to take this time as an educational minute to think about what you plant in your yards, because it does impact the dunes and our other ecosystem areas. But before Heidi...
Address the before shot.
Yep, so these are some before pictures that were taken, and you can see, it's hard to tell, but we have areas of fountain grass that typically comes into these spots. And fountain grass is a commonly used ornamental that looks similar to sea oats, but it is highly invasive. And we also have lots of areas where crabgrass and other grasses were starting to grow in from nearby properties as well. So, yep, they made a big difference in a short amount of time.
So you just saw there was 4 slides. Those are our before pictures. And again, grass is really the issue. And here now you're starting to see some of the after pictures. So you can see that the gaillardia, which is the pretty daisy-like flower, and the beach daisies, which are the yellow ones in the back, have started to grow in, mainly because we removed the invasives, which mainly is grass. It's crabgrass, it's fountain grass, it's clover, which is a different type of grass. So those species have come in because the plants in the neighbors' yards around it flower and seed and blow over into our nice native planted area and into the dune system as well. So we had about 6, you saw there was about 6 volunteers, and we went out there an hour a week, just an hour a week, I want to tell you, for like 8 to 10 weeks. Now look, see, you can get a good idea by looking at that now. So just by removing the grass, literally by just removing the crabgrass, the fountain grass, the clover, the natives do well on their own. You don't really need to seed them. You don't need to plant them. You don't need to spend a lot of money on special species or anything like that. When you first plant a bare area, it costs money for those initial plants. But if you manage it properly for natives, you'll never spend any money on a native again, as long as you keep out the invasives. And then I just wanted to emphasize that it really was 1 hour a week, 6 people, 8 to 10 weeks, and that's the difference we want. And we even had natives come in. That's coastal indigo. That was not planted in there. That came in on its own. So, and we put in some little tags for people who are curious to look around, but we'll take those out. But you can see that really it's a different maintenance thinking process. You know, your typical maintenance process is kind of bang zoom, like you go in there with 5 guys and you clean it all out and you put in the plants and you water and you're good to go for 6 months or a year. But with this kind of, if you would just hold it on that one for a second, with this kind of plant, it's really about a little all the time, not a lot all at once. So it's a lot less maintenance if you don't leave it alone forever. And it had been left alone for a long time, and it really got, it got ahead of us. And that's why we came in to try to help. So we had a lot of fun doing it. We kind of quit when it got really hot. And most of my volunteers were me or older. So it's not an easy thing to do, but it's just a little tiny bit of effort all the time that really makes the difference. And I just wanted to thank my volunteers, Barb, Mike, Marcia, Nancy, Judy, and myself. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
I just want to say that it does look, I walk down there all the time, it does look very nice. And I was surprised I don't know why I'd be surprised, but the native plants that were given away at the community day, I have a couple of those, and I just checked the other day, and they just take off without any maintenance at all. So it really does make a difference when you have the ones that thrive here. So thank you all.
Excellent. Great reminder. Thank you. All right. Next on our agenda is public comments for non-agenda items. I believe I have a card from Greg Tong. So far, unless someone else comes up.
Oh, well, let's hope I didn't make anybody mad. Gregory Tong, on tonight, I'm speaking on, actually on behalf of the community around here, but actually the chairman of EPIC, which is the Environmental Preservation Initiative for our communities, which is a Treasure Island Madeira Beach Chamber of Commerce program. First, I want to mention, I believe it was about 2 weeks ago, we went out and did a beach cleanup with Richard Harris. I believe that was, I guess, I think I'm gonna mess it up. Treasure Bay
Bay Plaza, or,
but whatever it is over there, that Richard Harris heads up over there. Great thing that he does. And Marcus Winters, the owner of Caddy's over there, they give a free breakfast. Everybody goes around, they pick up everything or as much as they can around the beach. I got to work out that day and walked on that soft sand. I think my legs are finally recovering. But I believe there was about 11 to 15 people that volunteered that day. I would guess around 2,000 cigarette butts, just within a few hours. And again, the owner of Caddy's and of Caddy's over Madeira Beach and whatnot, him and his fiance, they were out there, right there, doing it with us. I think it's very important for everybody to understand if they can do it, if the business owners can do it, we can do it also. And I'm going to segue into the next thing. Carrie Auerbach and Richard Harris in a few of the other groups coming up Memorial Day, 6 p.m. And I know it's late on Memorial Day. You might have to stumble around a little bit. But it's one of the most important things to do, especially since we've gotten hit so hard by tourism, which is a great thing for many, but our beaches do take a hit for that. And I think it's very important for us to recognize that we still have to take care of the turtles, and that people don't understand when they come from up north or even local, they don't understand. Fill up those holes, tear down the sand castles, but we don't want to get in an argument with anybody on, what they're doing wrong or anything like that. Just be nice to everybody. But on that day, starting at 6 p.m., there was a huge cleanup with all the groups that we support with Epic to come over from 6 until whenever. Bring a bucket, 5-gallon bucket, 3-gallon bucket, whatever you have. Get some pickers. They don't cost that much. And the Treasure Island Madeira Beach Chamber of Commerce will start supplying these things here in the near future, but it's a little too soon for us to do that. It's very important that we do this in our community, because whatever is on our streets, whatever's on the beach, it gets washed back in. So please be a part of that. Please take care of our community, because there's many people around that don't just live right here in Treasure Island, but the surrounding communities that really do care. And that's where we're at with that. And if you can go over to Carrie's website or the Treasure Island Madeira Beach Chamber of Commerce, there's more information. But Treasure Island Adopt a Beach on Facebook, you can find where to sign up and pick your spot where you want to pick up at. This has to be one of the most important things for us to do in this community. We don't have the staff in order to do the businesses, and they can barely even have cooks in there. So please, whatever we can do, follow suit and keep our treasure a treasure. That's all I have to say. And thank you for letting me go over a little bit. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Greg. Any other public comments for any items that are not on our agenda?
Mayor,
Anything
we have no
online?
online public comments.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to commission reports then. Commissioner Toth?
Okay. First thing I'd like to say is thank you for everyone coming out to the grand opening of the Roselli Park. And we appreciate you coming out. And I also would like to thank our anonymous donor again for the pavilion. And we've met and we're going to work on maybe possibly some little projects to help beautify the park. And then I'd like to ask Gary about the water sign behind Key Capri, if we can get an update. I have my constituents are asking about the floating sign versus the standard sign, and if you think that floating sign will be beneficial.
The floating sign is preferable just because of the conditions out there and what's happening. So, yeah, the one that I sent you today is gonna be a buoy-based sign rather than a pole-based sign. But that's what the Pinellas County folks think is best. They went out there and tried to get the other kind of sign up and couldn't get it done. They are convinced this will work just fine.
Where is that?
Behind Key Capri
Behind you.
in
Okay.
the path.
We had a tall pole-based sign that was up, and unfortunately, somebody knocked it over during the night, you know, and we have a problem, if anybody's been in John's Pass recently. We have quite a bit of new boaters and quite a few more boats. Basically, a lot of it, COVID, it was the only thing you could do, so a lot of people bought a boat, and they're out there. So we see a lot of increased speeders, increased use of jet skis that zip around, and anyway, somebody during the night clipped the pole sign. So I've been asking about getting a replacement, and it's controlled by county, and it's been kind of slow on forthcoming, and it's undermining under this Capri seawall and also behind the point, and we have a lot of manatees that come right close along the seawall there. So the concern is that we have to have a way for the police to enforce it. If there's no sign, how to, you know, it's like, we don't have a speeding sign, so how fast can we go? And they're doing a very good job of nailing it around the corner and coming through. So it's been a big concern with safety, the kayakers, the paddleboarders coming through, and not getting knocked off. I've seen a few of them come and get knocked off by people plowing through the waterway there. And we had a sign, so with the signs and stuff, it might increase public safety somewhat. And that's what I wanted to follow up with. And that's basically all I have for a report this week.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Doctor?
I think that for the next 4 weeks, we're going to continue to hear several complaints about the traffic on Gulf Boulevard and the repairs that are being done out there. I know that I had an opportunity to speak with a couple of different groups from both Gulf Boulevard and Isle of Palms, and basically gave them the news that it probably would be another 4 weeks. But that and I'm correct in that we should be done before we get into storm season, correct?
That is certainly our hope. That's the goal. And I was out there today, and it gets exacerbated significantly when the bridge goes up.
Yes.
Because it went from being a 4 or 5 minute get through from about 120th to about 127th is predominantly up at Johns Pass. It was 7 blocks long. But it moved fairly quickly, and the police are doing a good job of staying on top of it. They understand what's going on. They have no objections getting out of the car and kind of helping folks clear intersections. So it's not going to be fun for the next few weeks, and we always try to under-promise and over-deliver.
And I'll tell you, the presence of the police being out there under the tent and controlling the traffic lights did not go unnoticed by any means. That people were very pleased that the city recognized it and had them out there. So.
Good.
One other thing I wanted to mention is I did have the opportunity to meet the board of directors for the Isle of Palms Civic Association. They gave me about 20 minutes to speak, and some interesting stories, and even talked to a couple of folks that were very close to a couple of the older mayors, and one that had been married to a former mayor, and so it was a very interesting meeting. And the one thing that they pointed out to me is that 2 things, I was just mentioning to Tyler, 2 things is that 2 things have happened in the last few months, and that is we have our youngest mayor, and we also have our first female city manager. So 2 things, and they pointed that out, and I agree that is, so glad to see that, and Amy. So those are the only things I had for tonight.
Perfect, thank you. Vice Mayor Partridge?
Sure. I wanted to start off by thanking Treasure Bay for hosting a picnic for residents. It was on Friday evening, and they did a great job with bringing community together since after COVID. They had things for kids, they had music for adults. Thank you to Kathy from Parks and Rec who helped them organize that. But it was nice to see families out doing pre-COVID type of activities and enjoying themselves. If you did not attend the Treasure Bay picnic, if you could reach out to myself or your, whoever you're comfortable reaching out to and let us know why you didn't attend it. I would like to collect some information as to how we can make that a largely attended event ongoing. It was great to see Commissioner Toth at the playground that we had worked so hard on and doing the ribbon cutting ceremony. I just want to mimic some sentiments that I shared there for those who couldn't make it. It was a process to get that playground done, and one of the things that I think was really evident in this commission was we listened to feedback. We took the feedback, we adjusted, and even though some of the points were contentious and came with a lot of emotion, it was a very good example of how our community is so unique in that we take resident feedback to heart, we really work through the issues, and it was a beautiful collaboration to come up with something that is great for the whole community. And I'd like to see all of our projects going forward continue to be more of a collaborative, and it doesn't have to be contentious. It could be collaborative without the contention of a tree or whatnot. So just remind you that we do value your opinion. You can email it, you can come live during one of our meetings, you can call in. We have many different forums now, our website's improved, so please continue to bring your feedback. Don't think anything that you're thinking might be significant, because it's all significant. We are all minds working together for the greater good of our city. I did have some people approach me in the last couple of weeks about pickleball courts, and so if you know anybody who's passionate about that and they have some suggestions on how we can integrate more pickleball in our community, I ask you to reach out with that as well so we can collect more than a couple opinions on that. And then lastly, kids are out from school in 2 weeks, so I ask for your patience. Our kids these days are impulsive more than ever. 1 in 4 have autism or ADD like my son, and as much as we're moms and telling them to be aware of traffic, their minds and their attention is a lot less than it was when we were growing up, so please be patient with them. Do your best defensive driving as they kind of get used to more of the summer rules. And then lastly, the sentiment about the turtles and awareness and how it's great to see it spread. I can tell you I had a firsthand experience of it. We were doing sunset at the Don Cesar last night, and I was with my kiddo, he's 9, and I was rushing him saying, Chase, come on, you gotta go to bed, you gotta brush your teeth, we gotta read a book yet, what's taking you so long? I was a little bit upset with him because he was supposed to be back, to meet me at a certain place at a certain time, and he was like, Mom, I had to fill in holes because of the turtles. And I thought, oh my God, I was never so proud as a mom and a community member, because I say these things all the time to him, but it was the first time that he had thought about that on his own. And I said, oh my gosh, buddy, I'm so sorry. You can always be late for filling a turtle hole. So if you run into kids and you bring it up to them, whether they're your kids, your grandkids, your neighbor's kids, please know that it takes 13 times for children to remember things. I was a school teacher, so keep reminding them, because it does eventually carry into their everyday life. And just like Greg had talked about, he left, but about the cigarette butts and things like that, if we keep instilling that in our kiddos, because we're talking about it, we're showing them it's important, it does filter over. So I thought it was such a great testament. And then lastly, at the ribbon cutting ceremony, the firemen had reminded the kids to wear helmets when they were riding bikes, even though they didn't have bikes at the playground. And I thought, kudos to our fire department, who again are just such a great part of our community, and we're just so lucky to be surrounded by such great people. And that's it. That's all I have. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Yes, they did a great job.
All right, Commissioner Wetzel?
Yes, I don't have too much, but just to expand on what Greg had said, you can go online to the Adopt-A-Beach, and they have an invite. You can sign up for the event, and you can pick your area of beach to clean up. Although it's late on Monday, on Memorial Day, it'll probably be pretty dirty. I know that that's my normal, just walk down the beach and clean up time, and we have a lot that we clean up on those days. So And piggybacking on the turtle thing also, I wanted to ask Amy, did the flyers go out to all the hotels, the door hangers? Okay, all right, so, and that's something that, I had spoken with Stacy about last year, was also promoting the knocking down sandcastles. I always feel like the Grinch going around and knocking down everybody's sandcastles and filling in the holes. But that was added to the flyers this year, and if you are somebody who has a hotel or even rent your property and want some of those to have in contact, call City Hall. Okay, so that's all I have. Oh, and just the playground dedication was great, really nice.
Well done.
And Miss Wiggles was so sweet.
Oh, yes, I had, I'm in charge of a Southeastern guide dog right now who, little puppy, little too small to bring here, but she was a big hit at the playground.
And really, thank you for everyone coming out for it. It really made it special to have y'all
Yes.
there.
Thank you all
To
for
see it
being
come
there in
out.
my absence. I appreciate that. Well, I just wanted to also mention the beach cleanup. I just think it's a really cool, new, innovative idea to have that on a holiday in the evening after the beach has been heavily visited by tourists. I think that's a really, really great idea that was, I think, spearheaded by Greg and Carrie Auerbach from Treasure Island Adopt a Beach. So props to them, and I plan on being there, and I think we're going to do some social media coverage with me and Carrie, so keep your eye out for that. Commissioner Toth mentioning the no-wake zones. I had an opportunity last night. I was out on the boat, and I was going down Blind Pass, and I noticed, not to bring it up again because I know it was a big discussion last time, but there are the signs that we discussed last time are not there. There's one, when you're going out Blinds Pass from Paradise Island out to the cut, there's only one no wake sign on the left side of the canal on the St. Pete Beach side. There's no sign at all on the right side. And the one on the St. Pete Beach side is way over, like maybe 10 feet off the seawall. So most people aren't even going to see that and know that they, even on the weekend, need to slow down, particularly they should know going under the bridge out the pass because it's already a no-wake zone where they came from, but coming back in, there's no way for them to know that they're entering a no-wake zone on the other side of the bridge.
Okay,
And
I'll
then-
certainly have them take a look at it. They put a bunch back there when we talked about them last time. So I'll find out what happened to them and we'll get them restored.
I couldn't even see a piling where it was previously, or a sign was missing off of a piling or anything, and it might be something that needs a new sign. And then also, literally all of the signs are exactly the same. They all have the same language, no matter which way you're coming from. So I think we had discussed that coming in the pass was going from the Gulf into Blind Pass. We thought that elbow there was a no-wake zone all the time, but also that sign out on Sunset Beach at the very tip says the same thing. So
Okay.
people should be able, or technically are able to come in fast through the pass, even on the weekdays.
I think it's a minimum wake, not no wake.
Minimum or no wake, yeah, either one.
I just want to
yeah.
clarify, if we're going to
Right.
get a sign, we don't want it, we
Yeah.
want it to be
Okay.
correct.
Yeah.
We'll take care of it.
Right.
Okay.
Maybe we should do a sign inventory and see if we've lost some, because we had that late storm last year.
That could have been it. It could have been ETA. I know we have a sign inventory and we've got them all mapped out on GIS. So we'll go see what happened.
Okay.
It could have been, I don't know that we've checked them since ETA.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I wanted to bring up, and I'll just keep it short, maybe it's something we want to put on a workshop. I know we had discussed previously having planning and zoning and LPA maintaining the same, being the same members of those committees, but I've spoken with a couple of the members, and I watched the LPA meeting from this last week, And there were a couple members from the Planning and Zoning Committee that were not in attendance, and I'm sure it was possibly just schedule conflicting, but watching that meeting and watching planning and zoning meetings kind of opened my eyes to how different those two boards are, particularly as we come into the planning part of the EAR and the comp plan and the LDRs. What struck me was the planning and zoning board is very, those members are the judge for variance cases, and they're sitting in a judicial, quasi-judicial setting. Whereas LPA is more of a collaborative, they're working out the plan for the future. And it seemed to me that there were only, there were probably 5 members there, but only 3 people were really interacting and engaging in that process. So I was just thinking we might want to reconsider that decision, whether it be making it a subcommittee of that. But I just want to make sure that as we go into this really important phase in redoing our land development code, that we have people that are going to really engage and want to be on LPA for the planning purpose. You kind of have to be a little geeky about that stuff to really get into the weeds, and we need people that are going to be into the weeds. So I think it might be worthwhile to reconsider. And I believe they also scheduled the next meeting to be following planning and zoning. And I have some concerns with that, because after a long planning and zoning meeting with a lot of variances, maybe, I know how we all get at workshop, like if you've been here a long time, you kind of want to go home and not really engage too much. So I think to have those meetings following the planning and zoning meeting could potentially be detrimental to the collaborative environment that we really want to foster on LPA. So maybe something, like I said, we throw on workshop and discuss further. Maybe everyone can speak with their representatives that are on that committee and see what they think. But I think outside of this 3-year period that we're going to go through, it makes sense to have them combined, because LPA doesn't really meet very much. But with this time in the next 3 years, I think it might be worthwhile to separate them and then go back to the way we've been doing it.
I'd like to say I couldn't be more delighted that you bring this up. I think you may or may not have recalled that's been my position from day one. I shared that passionately because sitting on both boards for over 5 years, when we had been talking about what was before us, I continued to say in our previous meetings that I think it's crucial, beyond important, that we have 2 separate boards, because the skill set is incredibly different. It's like the difference between police and librarians. And it'd be very uncommon or unlikely that we would have someone that had very large strengths in both. And it is difficult, having done it myself for so many years. And because of exactly what you said, it's such a crucial time in what we're going to do in our city going forward, that if somebody's not suited for that type of role, that wouldn't best serve our city. So I am hugely, and have been since the beginning discussions, supportive of splitting the boards and getting the people on each. They can choose which one they prefer, and then we can open up positionings as we see fit. But I think it's huge. I think it's crucial.
Any other
Agree.
quick thoughts?
No, I agree with that, because it is different,
Yeah.
and the whole focus is different, so
Wasn't-
having,
oh, I'm sorry, Deb.
no, it's okay, go ahead.
Wasn't there a reason that we were going to do it, but there was some sort of legal logistical reason that we didn't?
You can, in order to do it, you'll have to change your ordinances. That's the only legal hurdle that you'll have with it. Is you have to designate who your land planning agency is by statute, and so if it's not going to be your planning and zoning board and you're going to have a different board, then you would need to change your ordinances to identify who that board is going to be.
So that would just take we'd need 2 meetings to get that done, right?
And I'd like to also add that when I first was assigned to the planning and zoning in the LPA, we had 15 members. And we went down to 7, or is it still 7? I haven't, yeah, So, with this being such a big task, we could also increase the number of people on that board, because when people are on holiday or sick, or, we reduced it, but is that something we can relook at, as an individual board?
You certainly can. One of the things that I would suggest, if you're really thinking about doing that, is looking at potentially the attendance of the last, of the planning and zoning and the LPA board meetings. I think what you'll find is, for the majority of those meetings, almost all of the board members attend, but you were concerned about that, particularly coming up on this time where you're doing so much revision to the comp plan and to the land development regulations. I think that was part of this board's rationale for having alternates, and so that led you to amend to have 2 alternates on the board. So then, if you decide to go forward in splitting these boards, will you still want to keep alternates, or will you just want to have 2 different boards with a set number of members? I will tell you, just from, and this is in no way trying to limit, but just in my experience in dealing with public boards, 5 and 7 is a great number. When you start to get larger, and obviously you can make it as large as you want, it becomes a little more challenging. Certainly you want the input from the residents and from the community, but as a board and a scheduling, and then how many you need for quorum and actually to take an action, it becomes somewhat challenging.
I just think if we have 5 and 3 are participating, and we're changing ordinances that we're gonna live with for the next 30 years, I'm not super comfortable with that. I share that decision with my fellow colleagues here, but I think we really need to digest this, talk to people. They're big decisions, and, when you have 5 and 3 participating, or whatever that number is, you want it to be enough so we're getting a broad base of input, and it's such a big task, so maybe we can continue to discuss that. The planning and zoning and the LPA do not have to be the same amount of members, correct?
Correct.
If we split the boards, okay.
Correct.
So that's just food for thought going forward.
Do we not have a commission meeting on June 1st?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we have plenty of time between now and June 15th is our next commission meeting, correct? So, with kind of consensus here, could we task you guys, staff, to kind of start to work on that, and maybe speak with each of us individually to get our thoughts on where that should go, since we don't have a opportunity to discuss it?
Sure.
And then maybe even have, by the 15th, maybe even have a first reading. Is that too
Could we?
aggressive?
Do you want to?
No, I don't think so.
Do you want to have an opportunity to speak with the members who are on planning and zoning before we have a draft ordinance?
I think we can give them a heads up that they are maybe in a position to choose which board they feel most suited for, because we're going to be looking at splitting.
So what, are you thinking to have a workshop, it on the 15th?
Yeah.
Are we in any sort of time? Yes, okay. I know they just were briefed at the last meeting on the start of the year. That was kind of my rationale behind trying to make it quick, so that we could, I know the process already started, so.
So I think that the ear will be heard one more time, and by the planning or by the LPA, in a determination of whether or not to move it forward to commission. But I think that it's set to come to commission probably in mid-July. So I don't know that even if we had a first reading, then you would have a second split before the ear would come to you.
Okay.
Certainly, if you had 2 different boards, the second board, the LPA board, would be involved in the comprehensive plan amendments and the LDRs, but just probably not with the ear.
Okay.
Yeah, and the ear is the least of the 3. So the
Right.
big one is the comp plan and the LDR. So you've got some time.
Okay. So let's workshop it on the 15th. All right, that's all I have for my report, so we'll.
Can I just, one thing on that, maybe can we get a list individually of the emails for the people who are on the planning and zoning, so if we want to, we can reach out to them and get their
Yeah,
thoughts
Ruth
on it.
has a list she can
Sure.
provide to it.
And could we offer for someone to be on both?
I think that's something we'll discuss at the
Right,
workshop, but
okay.
I would be in favor of allowing people
sure.
to serve on both.
But they don't have to?
Don't have
If
to,
they don't
correct.
feel they're suited for one or the other?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, next is approval of minutes. We have the minutes from our March 16th meeting and workshop. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting and workshop minutes from our last meeting.
It's actually March 16th, isn't it? And March 16th commission and workshop?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'll second that.
All right, any discussion? All right, roll call?
Commissioner Partridge,
Aye.
Commissioner Wetzel,
Aye.
Commissioner Toth,
Aye.
Commissioner Doctor,
Aye.
Mayor Payne.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, we have nothing on the consent agenda this evening, so we'll get right into items of business. First on our list is accept donation from the Treasure Islets to the Recreation Department.
Good evening. The Recreation Department, as you know, has established a scholarship fund and an Everyone Plays fund to assist families who have financial hardships and cannot necessarily afford the registration fees or the field trips associated with summer and winter camp. The Treasure Islets, even though they did not hold bingo this year, have graciously come to us to donate $2,000 to the scholarship fund. And tonight I have Carol Lee, who's the president, Dan Groves, who is the treasurer, and Diana Crable, vice president. So Carol Lee would like to say a few words, but other than that, I just move that we approve their generous donation of $2,000.
Very few words, but I'm just so glad that we can donate it and we can continue our scholarships, even though we haven't had bingo for 14 months or our fundraisers. But we're ready to get back going, and September, hopefully, we'll be back to everything. So thank you, and I'm so glad we could.
Wonderful, thank you so much. We have a motion?
Yes, I move to accept the generous donation from the Treasure Islets in the amount of $2,000 to the Recreation Department Scholarship Fund.
I'll second and thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I just also wanted to say thank you very much for all of your service to our community. You guys are one of our most valued partners at the city, so thank you very much for everything that you do. Any public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll roll call.
Commissioner Partridge,
Aye.
Commissioner Wetzel,
Aye.
Commissioner Toth,
Aye.
Commissioner Doctor,
Aye.
Mayor Payne.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Next is consider request from Treasure Island Historical Society for display space at the City Center. I believe we have Jonna Patterson here to speak to us about this item.
Good evening. Thank you so much for letting us come before the commission. Through our diligent cataloging of all the information and the historic treasures of this beautiful city, we have found that the last time we were here to ask for help financially was in 1996. So that was about 25 years ago. Since then, we have done it all alone. Good. All right, I think all of you in your folders have seen a written request, and I'm just going to quickly go across that. Our goal is to secure a location to display and store our City of Treasure Island's treasures. We currently pay $165 per month for 2 storage sheds that barely contain our inventory. Each year, there's a rent increase. We have figured that we've probably, through fundraising, donations, whatever, in more than 10 years, have paid $12,000. And this is with not any help from the city. But of course, here we are asking for help because we need it. We also incur expenses for brochure printing, office supplies, stamps, the expense of printing and editing the DVDs we sell of interviews of longtime residents of Treasure Island who give their insight into how life was on our island. And this is very interesting if you have a chance. And we have another appreciation day like we did. We sold many of these DVDs and appreciate all the people involved that sit and edit them, record them, and whatever. We would like to request a display area on the first floor for pictures and memorabilia of the new city center. They will be suitably framed and displayed. We also are in need of a secure area where we can store and have room to catalog and to occasionally work on items that we've collected. We're requesting a $3,000 line item to be added to the city's budget to help us preserve and display the history of Treasure Island. We have managed the city's history for many years, since the 80s, with no financial assistance from the city. In order for us to continue like we feel we need to for the city, we desperately need your help. We would like to request a one-time investment of $2,500 to help us get the displays professionally shaped so we can proudly hang them on the walls of the new city center. Thank you for your consideration. And as I said, you know, this is the heart of our wonderful island. We have people who've contributed. We've had volunteers who've helped us for all these years. If you've never seen the city of North Reddington Beach, their historical museum, fortunately, one of their past mayors gave them a house that they moved off the beach. Oh, is it Indian Rocks? Thank you. Sorry, Indian Rocks. And it's incredible through grants and donations. It's just done superbly. So if you have a chance, that's what the history is. So if you have questions, this is Suzanne Deedy, Ginger, Carol. So they're here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Can I add one thing that I
Sure.
think you're going to love? Some of you have been here a long time. Remember Stephanie Levino? That request that we found in our archives was from Stephanie when she was on the commission asking for, because she really, she collected all kinds of memorabilia. It kind of got lost in the shuffle when she was deceased. We had to buy it back from the person who had taken it. So anyway, it goes a long way back.
Yeah, John Burke was a huge proponent. John Burke was a huge proponent of the Historical Society. I'm not sure how many of you remember John, but he was a great citizen for the city of Treasure Island. And Donna White, who just recently passed away, has worked untold hours cataloging and trying to get this stuff together so that finally it can see the light of day and people can enjoy the history of our city. Thank you.
Any questions?
This is Ginger, and I don't know if she's going to speak or not, but if you go on, she's going, no. She has done phenomenal work on Facebook with all the history of Treasure Island. It's fabulous. So please consider our request. One of them is a one-time. The other one is a line item vote or item. If you would please help us, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Any questions for them?
I just have a quick question. Do you do fundraising, and what does that look like?
We, 2 years, you want to do? No, 2 years ago, we did Citizen of the Year. And the first one was John Burke before he passed. And last year, we were going to do, and then the second one was Julian Thant. And then last year, we had to call it off because of COVID. So we probably will do something this next year. But it's more that we want to honor some outstanding citizen of Treasure Island who's been here a long time. Some of you don't know, but John grew up on Lagoon Lane. His father built one of the houses there. And then he went to college, got married, and moved away. And after he retired, he came back here again. And he worked diligently for everything he thought that was good for Treasure Island.
I have a couple questions. So I think that having space in the new city hall is a great idea. I am curious about the storage that you have. How big are these storage units? Is everything, are you looking for space for everything in the storage units? And,
I'll speak to that. Presently, we have 2 storage units, and we are individually taking boxes and boxes and boxes, because there were things in there. If it had the word Treasure Island, it was put there. So we are culling through all of this so we can get it down to one room. Possibly, we've been told that maybe on the 4th floor that all of that space hasn't been spoken for. So I don't think it's going to be a lot, but we need it air conditioned and we need it secure. So I don't think we're talking about a lot of space, but a small room. I don't know. What?
Can you give us some dimension size?
10 by 12.
10 by
Yeah,
12.
not a giant, because we'll have called off enough that,
And hanging things on your
will help us get rid of the larger stuff that's hard to store.
And I mean, as I said before, we've spent since more than 10 years, $12,000 doing this. I wanted to mention another fundraiser was the man who wrote the book on the falling of the Skyway Bridge. And it was fascinating. It was just really an amazing talk that he did. And we've raised a lot of money that way. But again, there's brochures, there's mailings, there's pamphlets that we want to put out. Please join the Treasure Island Historical Society. And we've really been bearing all of that cost. So it'd be wonderful if the city could help us a little bit.
Is that you came up with the number of 3,000, is that the cost that you are expending at this point, or?
But that's,
For rent and for the printing of the brochures, for the printing of the DVDs, for the cost of the supplies, it adds up.
well, that's what we've been doing. So if you don't charge us rent in the new city center, that will cut down on that.
By how much? What's the rent cost for the storage units?
It's $165 a month right now.
So it's 1,000, 12, what did we do, 1,600 a year?
About 2,000. About 2,000 a year for rent.
Yeah, it's almost 2,000, $1,980
Yeah.
for the year. And then are the DVDs able to be streamed so people can download them? I know most of the young people aren't really buying DVDs anymore. I don't think I even own any. I'm not even young.
Not now, no.
No.
We have to work on that.
They interview the person, and then they take that interview and digitize it, put it on the DVD to sell, is what it is.
And we started that procedure before streaming became a big deal. So we have to investigate how this stuff can be streamed. We just don't know yet.
Well, you wouldn't be able to, yeah. I don't even have a DVD player.
I don't have a
Um,
DVD player.
but
That's why I'm
you
asking.
wouldn't-
I haven't had a DVD player in years.
You wouldn't be able to
years.
sell them is the problem, so.
Right,
I
right.
Yeah.
understand that, but we're not here to tell you guys how to.
No, I was just curious.
Happy to show you some of the things that we have. I think I gave them to you before, but I'm happy to,
Yeah.
give them to you so you can see what we're talking about.
The one thing I'd like to see is instead of putting this $3,000 into the yearly budget, is that you come back each year and request that it be put into the budget, show us what we've done over the course of the last year, how the money was spent. I think that's probably a better way for us to do it than just have a line item every year that
We
that
can
puts in.
provide that.
That's not a problem.
Okay?
Not a problem.
We'll be back before 25 years. You can bet on it.
Good, good. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all your work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So what I'm hearing is they're making 3 requests. First of all, requesting space in City Hall for their storage.
And we're gonna rotate, if it's my understanding, the artwork or the memorabilia, or I think that was kind of the request.
We might have more questions for
Yeah,
you guys
we
as we
might.
discuss this, so you might want to stick around.
We're gonna rotate the artwork, correct, or the memorabilia? Okay.
You know the rules, Carol. You've been up here.
You probably made these rules back in the day.
You forget so fast, though. Yes, we want to rotate it, but we want to be able to frame it nicely, like some of the other museums, have a little verbiage there on what they're looking at in Treasure Island and the significance of it. And I might add, I don't know if you've been over, have you been over to our historic bridge in the park? Where we partnered with the city to put in the history there?
Yeah.
And because my office is close there, I can look out the window. And people are actually going and reading it, so I'm impressed.
Nice.
But if you need more information, I'm sure we can find it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Any
maybe
oth-
we would
anything
want to
else?
invest, I'm thinking, in some sort of like shadow boxes if things are coming in and out instead of individually.
Right.
Because as we rotate, we might have, kids art, or we might rotate lots of different things. So instead of, I'm just thinking maybe futuristically.
Yeah, are most of the items that you would be wanting to display in City Hall smaller items that would go in like a display case, or are they wall hanging?
We have some of everything. We've had huge aerial things. So, when we get to a point, we could collaborate and say, what's the space? What would you like to see there?
Right.
And maybe work it that way.
It's a good idea.
I mean, we don't want to say, this is what you're going to put on your wall. I think if we all kind of talk together, we could see what you want.
Are there pictures of everything cataloged somewhere? Like Art Broker, I use Art Broker, where you just,
It's all in storage.
okay.
The books, the catalog books are in storage.
So we can see what the
do have a
edits are.
lot of things that need to be cataloged.
Mhm.
Because Donna White was working on that with several other volunteers.
Yeah.
But when Donna passed, we haven't been able to do much of that.
Okay.
So,
I'd like to say one thing.
okay.
I don't know if you all had a chance to see our display on the second floor of the Chamber building. I think it was up for maybe 5 days. And then we realized, unfortunately, that we did not have wheelchair access to the second floor. So after 5 days, it was all taken down. But it started from a photo of Treasure Island in 1914 by E.G. Barnhill, who did the first postcards of Florida. And it went from there to the first mayor, businesses. One wall had the fire department from the beginning, one wall had the police department. It was really fascinating. But we had great big wooden signs, banners, and it was just a great display. But we just haven't had the ability to find a permanent home for this. So we thought in the city center we could rotate it. More?
Yeah, and I forgot to tell you, the city, whether you realize that the city has a time capsule. It used to be in front of Bank of America. Well, when Bank of America closed, we got a little nervous about it, so we moved it, and it's in the basement at the Bilmar. So that is something we would like to be able to put in the new city center, is the time capsule. It's a nice looking, it's not ugly, it's nice concrete with a plaque on it, but it's from 1976 is when it was put in, so it'll be, I'm not sure any of us will be here when it's time for it to go and be opened, but it's something interesting, a conversation piece for people to see that come to look at stuff. So we do
Great.
have a time capsule.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so we have the display space, $3,000 line item in the budget is number 2, and the third one was $2,500 one-time funding for displays. Does anyone have any
And
preferences?
storage, and they want storage space.
Yes.
A 10 by
Yeah.
12 room. So there's actually 4
4.
items. But I think Commissioner Doctor's idea about not creating a line item and having us relook at that every year based on need is probably, I would say, the direction that I would think, knowing our board in the past with making decisions, is probably a great suggestion.
What's the best way to handle that financially? Should that be part of the budget process? I mean, it's pretty small, but I
Yeah,
know we
so-
do get down to small amounts like that in the budget.
So what I would recommend is in the city commission budget, you have a line that is called aid to other organizations.
Okay.
And then if you get a request, we bring those to you for consideration when you adopt the budget.
Yeah.
So it would be similar to the chamber's request and whatnot. We have safe harbor requests, so it could be handled that way, where you get the request to consider every year. And then as far as the $2,500 one time, that's officially the request tonight, so that can be considered for the proposed budget as well. So then going forward, it would be a request from the organization for your consideration at the budget workshop.
So we could approve the 2,500 tonight if we wanted to.
We can go ahead and
And
build
then we
the
could
proposed
do the
budget with
next,
that.
the 3,000 into the budget.
You can consider it at the budget workshop,
budget
and then you can
workshops,
add it at that time. And with your direction tonight, we can go ahead and build the proposed budget with the 2,500.
That sound, so they could come to the budget workshop and kind of,
Yeah.
I mean, it's coming up very quickly, so we may not even need a presentation, but that's when we could work that into the budget. So that's what we'll do for the $3,000 line item, the recurring, and then do we want to, do you want to kind of take it one by one?
Yeah,
How do we,
let's start with
how do we
display
feel
area
about
on the first
display
floor.
space? Does anyone have any issues with that?
I would like us to create a display space that, as things are rotating, could house other things also in between and supplement, instead of matting and framing, everything.
Yeah.
I think, and I haven't thought this through because this has just come up tonight, but sometimes, you have these shadow boxes and they can, be living, moving kind
Yeah.
of, and I'm not sure, how we would state that.
Yeah, I'm not even sure we need to make a motion. I think we could probably give directive to, in the planning of City Hall for that to be incorporated.
Okay.
Everyone's okay with display space, though?
Yeah.
Okay. 3,000
storage.
done. Storage space?
Do we have the
Anyone
storage space to accommodate?
Well, one room was probably not going to be too difficult for us to come up. Remember, we're not going to completely redo the fourth floor, so
But will it have air conditioning?
it'll have air conditioning.
Okay.
And it'll be sprinkled as well. So it'll be a safe, we'll think about how we can secure it, but I don't think, one office would be too much to ask.
Anyone opposed to that?
No, I'm fine with that.
Okay. And how about the 2,500 one-time funding?
No, I think it's a great thing. Stephanie used to be my neighbor, so I remember her.
Okay, well, sounds like we have direction on all those. Do you want to make a motion to
Sure,
those,
sure.
to that effect? You can even include the display space.
Okay, well, thank you. You're so generous. All right, I would like to make a motion that we provide display space on the first floor of the new City Hall and storage space of approximately a 10 by 12 room, and also a monetary amount of $2,500 to the Treasure Island Historical Society.
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
No.
All right, any public comment? Any online public comment?
No online public comments.
Thanks for what you do.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys. All right, roll call?
Commissioner Partridge?
Aye.
Commissioner Wetzel?
Aye.
Commissioner Toth?
Aye.
Commissioner Doctor?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you again. We look forward to seeing it all.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you. And gentlemen.
All right, item 3 is adopt ordinance 2021-12, second public hearing amending the fiscal year 2021 Penny for Pinellas Fund budget to appropriate $51,000 for the purchase of a replacement police vehicle.
Ordinance number 2021-12, an ordinance of the City of Treasure Island, Florida, amending the fiscal year 2021 Penny for Pinellas Fund budget to appropriate $51,000 from the insurance proceeds and the undesignated fund balances for the replacement of a police vehicle, providing for severability, conflict, and an effective date.
Mike?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This item is the second reading of last meeting's budget amendment for the replacement of the wrecked police car. I know I said that the totals in the ordinance would change a little bit at the second reading, but staff realized that we really didn't need to make that adjustment because you're appropriating the $51,000, and whenever the insurance settlement check comes back, as we're only going to take the difference out of fund balance anyway. So no need to do all the extra paperwork and the advertising. Upon your approval of this item, I'm going to work with the police department to place our order as quickly as possible because the lead time with these vehicles has been many, many, many months. So we're going to do everything in our power to get that thing here as quickly as possible. It's a pretty simple item, but if you guys have any more questions, I would be happy to address them.
Any questions for staff?
No.
All right. Do we have a motion?
Sure. I move to adopt ordinance 2021-12, amending the fiscal year 2021 Pinellas, Pennies for Pinellas Fund to appropriate $51,000 for the replacement of a police vehicle at the second and final public hearing.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any commission discussion? Nothing? All right, we'll open the public hearing. Is there any public comment? Nothing in the room, anything online?
No online public comments.
All right, we'll close the public hearing and we'll take a roll call.
Commissioner Partridge?
Aye.
Commissioner Wetzel?
Aye.
Commissioner Toth?
Aye.
Commissioner Doctor?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye. All right, item 4 is ratify expenses to TLC Diversified, Inc. for repair of a damaged sewer main located at 10300 Gulf Boulevard for the amount of $86,872.73.
It is my favorite subject, Gulf Boulevard. Okay, on April 12th, the city was called about a possible sewer backup at 103-100 Gulf Boulevard, which is right just north of Publix. And when the crew arrived, they noticed a depression in the side of the road near the sidewalk. Duke Energy contractor, F&H Contracting, was performing directional drilling and damaged the sewer line during this process. Once the city workers identified the break and exposed the sewer main, they were able to secure the break and set up a bypass operation so that we didn't have sewage coming out onto the street and released. The next day, TLC Diversified, which is our emergency contractor for this type of work, they came out that morning and assessed the damage and began repair of the vitrified clay pipe. On the south side, I'm pretty sure I mentioned before, it's clay, and on the north side, it's ductile iron. Clay is going to get hit, and it's going to go right through it. Ductile iron sometimes will allow the directional drilling to kind of pass through it, but not clay. So on April 13th, they set up maintenance of traffic and repairs to the broken 18-inch vitrified clay pipe. Because of the emergency and the vital nature of the sewer main that transfers sewage from south of 104th. So that pipe, it transfers all the sewage from the south all the way down to the mansions. So you're getting a lot of sewage coming through there. To the master pump station. So the city directed TLC to immediately repair and maintain bypass operation. The total cost of the emergency repairs was $86,872.73. The city informed Duke Energy and their contractor of the costs associated with the repairs. Currently, F&H is disputing the reimbursement of the repairs. Staff will continue to work with Duke Energy to achieve a satisfactory outcome. The reason why we're coming in here and doing the ratification is it was over $25,000 and we had to get it done. So this is my way of informing you all. Funding will come from the contingency, the wastewater contingency fund, and I will take any questions at this time.
I just have a question, because it seems like, and I've only been on here a year, but in the past 6 months, it seems everybody's hitting our lines. I know it's not us. Is this a normal thing, or is this something that regularly happens as much as it's been happening?
It should not be happening. There is a lot of work going on out there, and I believe that maybe some of the drilling contractors are not using the most experienced people out here, because you can look at the ground that you're around, and you can see our green lines. Green line means sewer. They had to stand on top of the green line to put the drill rig in to go under it. They're supposed to be at 25 feet. We all know that it's got to go down. They put that their pipe is at 25 feet. Well, ours is at 4. So they went right through the 4. They missed the gas pipe, they missed the water pipe, they missed the reuse, they hit the clay pipe. It should not be happening the way it is, but it is. It's
I
happening.
don't think it happened like at all since like before you were on the commission, while I was on the commission, that I remember.
We did not have a lot of undergrounding going on. Now, we did have on the north side, but from 119 north, we don't have sewer pipes under Gulf Boulevard. It's only from 19 south. So they didn't have a lot to work in that area. I don't know why they're hitting it there. But anyway, they're disputing the claim, but you can see that it's been marked. I mean, it's just to tell us that it was not marked is wasn't correct.
And one other thing that we talked about is that this is Duke's responsibility to go after their contractor. It's not our responsibility to go after their contractor. And Duke's franchise agreement provides for indemnifying the city in the case of something like this happening on one of their projects. So we're gonna do our best to make sure that it gets done right.
Any other questions?
Yeah, we have around 3 to 5 locates a week, and we're locating them. You know, we take the spray paint and we spray them, and then we notify them that we're between 0 and 6 feet. So I don't know how you can say that we didn't mark them.
Any other questions?
I just have a comment, and I just want to say that I'm completely disappointed that Duke Energy didn't take responsibility, tried to pass the buck, and I'd just like to remind you, when we did have the Duke Energy representative here asking us for the 15 days, and I was really hard on it, because I was already kind of tainted from all the planning and zoning cases that came before us, with them asking, making our residents do a variance for stairs they required and permitting and things. This is just another example of why I would encourage us, when we have Duke Energy coming to us for things, that we remember that they're not always playing fair with us. And not that I'm, of a retaliative nature, but it's just, it's disappointing to say the least. Their contractors are their responsibility. You don't have to be in construction to know how subcontractors work. So it's cheeky for them to even begin the conversation saying it's disappointing at the very least. And I just want to remind us that, when they come before us with other things, that's why it was not so easy to roll over and give them exactly what they asked for the first time. I think they need to step up their game a bit, and I don't think I need to say any more.
So if this required legal action, would we have legal standing to force them to?
So there's an indemnification provision that's included within your franchise agreement. Without looking at that agreement, I really can't advise you specifically on the facts of this matter, but I would assume that if they were digging and hit one of our lines in the right of way, that they would be responsible for it under the indemnification.
Okay.
doesn't the contractor also have to, the subcontractor have to carry some form of insurance that covers the damage that they do?
So that would be between Duke Energy and their subcontractor. So Duke may seek, it may go after the subcontractor's insurance or may have an indemnification provision for them. But for us, the connection is between us and Duke.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion. I move to approve the ratification of expenses to TLC Diversified, Inc. for the repairs of the damaged sewer main line located at 10300 Gulf Boulevard in the total amount of $86,872.73.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further commission discussion? All right, hearing none. Do we have any public comment?
Mayor, we have no online public comments.
All right. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Partridge,
Aye.
Commissioner Wetzel,
Aye.
Commissioner Toth,
Aye.
Commissioner Doctor,
Aye.
Mayor Payne.
Aye. All right, next is item 5, adopt resolution 2021-05, commission rules. Need to read the title of the resolution?
Yes, I can. Hold on one second. Resolution 2021-05, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Treasure Island approving the amendment to the City Commission Rules of Procedure for the order of business for commission workshops and regular meetings, and to allow the continued public participation through communications, media technology, and providing an effective date.
All right.
And I bring you this issue because at our last meeting, there was discussion, and actually at several before then, of moving the commissioners' comments up in the agenda to, instead of having them at the workshop, to go ahead and have them in the regular meeting. And so you'll see that that change has been done in sections 5.1 and 5.2 of the rules. Section 8.2 has been amended to allow for the continued option of the public attending virtually and the rules associated with that participation. And then section 4.2 has also been amended at the city manager's request, that it would allow the city manager to place an item directly upon the meeting agenda. However, any commissioner could remove that item from the agenda or move it to a different agenda, be it a workshop or a future meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Jennifer? All right.
The last part is pretty much basically what we had, correct, with the movement of an item?
Yes, it's just allowing the city manager to place an item on the agenda, and then as we have at the beginning of all of your regular meetings, the board has the ability to move items around, or in this case, to remove the item.
But
Yeah.
previously, before the emergency orders, everything went workshop, regular session. And so what this is providing for is what we basically were doing during the emergency order, and that was things that weren't controversial or complicated were moved straight to the regular meeting unless a commissioner wanted to put them on a workshop, and then we did that without question.
Great. Well, thank you for putting this together for me. I think it's been working out well, but do we have a motion?
I move to adopt resolution 2021-05 to revise the city commission rules, reorganizing the agenda order, and providing for the continuance of virtual public meeting. Not the right one.
Mhm.
Did we address the virtual public meeting part?
Yeah,
Okay, we don't need to discuss that again. Okay, got it.
We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I just wanted to say thank you guys for entertaining the idea, and hopefully everyone's enjoying it, and hopefully it works out well. We can always switch back if we need to. And I think the other items are good to move forward as well. I think it gives us, putting things directly onto the agenda saves us a little bit of time, and it's kind of just flipping it around from the way we used to do it, and similar to using the consent agenda to speed things along, but this really can eliminate a whole meeting, so I think it'll be beneficial.
Well, I think too, we also get more of an audience with everybody waiting to speak and at least get some more response back to what's going on in the community with our reports earlier.
Yeah.
Then by the time we get around to it, we're
Yeah,
almost.
no one's gone. Everyone's
Yeah.
gone.
Sometimes it's been 10 o'clock at night, and we're just speaking to each other.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Any public comment?
Mayor, we have no online public comments.
All right. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Partridge,
Aye.
Commissioner Wetzel,
Aye.
Commissioner Toth,
Aye.
Commissioner Doctor,
Aye.
Mayor Payne.
Aye. Thank you very much. All right. Item 6 is approved city manager contract. Who's-
This is resolution number 2021-05, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Treasure Island appointing Amy Davis as city manager for the City of Treasure Island, approving a contract with Amy Davis, authorizing the mayor to execute such contract and providing an effective date. I will bring to the Commission's attention that there is a difference in the contract and resolution that was provided to you versus what we're considering this evening, and that is just that there was an error in dates with regard to when the current city manager's last day is and when Amy's first day would be. And so that change is, instead of May 31st and June 1st, it'll be June 1st and June 2nd respectively. That change has been made throughout the resolution and throughout the contract. Other than that, the contract is before you for consideration. I'll tell you that substantively, the changes between Gary's contract and Amy's contract are limited to circumstances kind of that were unique to each of them. In this, in Gary's instance, he was moving, so there were moving expenses. In Amy's instance, she lives here but isn't a resident of the city, and so the contract provides for the waiving of the residency requirement pursuant to our charter. Also, some of the language changed with regard to Gary was a new employee to the city, whereas Amy is an existing employee, and so there's recognition of the fact of her time served and already having vested in some of the retirement options. There was a change also with regard to Section 4 on the notice of days. That was changed from 60 to 45, and then the salary requirement, or the base salary, is $150,000. Other than that, the contracts are substantially the same. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Okay. Yeah, we'll wait till discussion. Entertain a motion then.
I move to approve the city manager contract as stated.
And, excuse me, just for clarification, that's a approval of resolution 2106 and the city manager contract as stated. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
We have a second?
Second.
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Commission discussion.
No, I'm grateful that Amy's stepping up, and I wish Gary the best. And hope to see you out in our
Me too.
community.
Anything?
Yeah, no, I'm in favor of all of it. I think that it's a fair contract, and excited for the future with Amy.
The only thing that I wanted to discuss was we had a large conversation when we were taking on Amy about how hard it is and how difficult it is to find a city manager. That seemed to be the rationale for not going with the process other than what we decided to do. So I'm not sure why we would do 45 days notice when we've already discussed at length how difficult it is to get a city manager. I would like to I personally would like to see a 90-day notice, but 60 days at least, but 45, I think given being the whole rationale that we made our decision seems in conflict of previous discussion. I'd like to hear my other fellow colleagues' thoughts on that one.
I think Gary's was 30 days, correct? So we did increase
60.
it to,
No, Gary's was 60 days, Reed's was 30 days,
Okay.
and generally, in several city manager contracts, it varies between 30 days and 60 days. And so, Amy had requested 45.
any thoughts?
I'd like to see
I kinda
60,
like
so it
the
would give us
60 days,
time,
too.
because that was one of our major rationales.
Yeah.
So it's hard to acknowledge it on one end and ignore it on another.
I would agree.
I'm fine with that.
Is that okay?
Mhm.
What is the should we be kind of deciding what we want to change and then you can discuss it with Amy, or what's the best procedure here?
If there are additional changes, we may need to do that. I know for that change, she's expressed that she's fine with that.
Okay.
So, if it's just that change and you wanted to move forward, then it would just be approving the resolution with the contract as amended.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Anything else?
No.
That was my only,
The only thing that really stuck out to me, and I don't feel strongly about it, it just kind of caught my attention, was in section 3C, and I'm sorry I didn't bring this up sooner, but in the event that the city elects not to renew at the end of the first term, so after a year, there would still be, in that event, that we would still pay 20 weeks of severance pay. So that just, in other circumstances, I think that makes sense. In the circumstance where it's at the end of the first term, I'm not sure that many weeks makes sense, but like I said, it's not a sticking point for me, but just wanted to see if anyone has any strong feelings about that, one way or another. Not saying that it should be 0, but
no, that's a valid point.
I'm just trying to do that's 5 months, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is 5 months.
Yeah, I do not have any issue with it. That's customary for a position of this type.
is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is an executive position.
Exactly.
And the stability on both sides is the purpose of this. It's not, like, in most cases, the hope is that you don't ever have to exercise it on either side.
Of course. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, my concern always, I'm okay with the 60 days. That's something I wouldn't want to go longer to, because I think you start getting into some arbitrary issues, and this seems fairly standard to me, but my experience is limited, so.
Okay. That's fine. So we'll just, any other changes we want to make? All right. So that's just that one change from 45 to 60. Do we need to amend the motion?
She can amend the motion to just say the contract as amended.
I'd like to amend the motion to the contract as amended.
Second.
Okay, the amendment has been moved and seconded. Do we have any public comment?
Mayor, we have no online public comments.
Any in-person public comment? No? All right. Roll call.
Commissioner Partridge?
Aye.
Commissioner Wetzel?
Aye.
Commissioner Toth?
Aye.
Commissioner Doctor?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye. Thank you. Congratulations, Amy.
Yes.
Official. All right. Next is consider an agreement between the city and Paymentus for the processing of online payments.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Once again, if the pandemic showed us anything, it's that there's a number of avenues that we're going to have to rethink how we do a lot of our business, and a lot of it's for the good. We noticed that there were a lot of things that we could start moving online, the biggest one being our parking permits. The biggest hurdle to that was I had to pick up the phone and call them to process a credit card over the phone, and that's just a little outdated for the internet age. So Junko and I kind of dove in and started looking at providers for online payment options, and we sat through webinars for a handful of different companies, and Paymentus is the one that definitely jumped out at us as the one that definitely meets all of our needs right out of the box. Over the past few years, we've been challenged to find ways to implement a virtual town hall where the public can conduct business with the city anywhere that they have an internet connection. One of the most obvious enhancements needed is a online payment solution. Currently, the city cannot take any online payments for any of like the routine purchases that we have for the public. The biggest three that we've identified are the resident parking pass, special trash pickups, and lien searches, all of which have a quick staff review time and then payment processing. They're all three simple processes for staff, and most of the time that is spent on them is in collecting the payment for them. Implementing this online payment solution will provide another innovative level of customer service. We'll also minimize staff interaction with these payments, which just reduces the chance of human error, and provide us with an opportunity to basically have this service on hand for whenever there's another thing that we might be able to put online to accept online payments. It's as I said, we did look at a couple of different options, this being the best one that actually we can generate invoices upon review and send it to them. They can put in credit card info, PayPal info, e-checks, like you can put like, bank account info and pay it all, different ways. And the fees are largely similar to what we would pay for credit card processing. So we don't expect any sort of budgetary impact, whether somebody comes to the front of City Hall and pays with a credit card, or they're online and they process their credit card payment that way. Staff believes the addition of this service will be welcomed by the public, which is why we have recommended it for approval. If you guys should have any questions about the technicalities or the offerings of it, I'd be more than happy to delve into any of that.
Any questions for Mike?
No.
It just it sounds pretty user-friendly then for the
It's-
residents.
Very user-friendly. We've actually kind of run some test transactions through it already, just on personal card $1 things, and everything seems to be working smoothly. There will be kind of I don't have the schedule right in front of me, it's a few months of implementation. They really take this seriously so that their setup plugs directly into our chart of accounts and everything, so that there's not a whole lot of back and forth after the fact, that they set it up and it works seamlessly with what we have, and it's minimal staff time and oversight to reconcile all those different transactions. So it's definitely far and away the one that has jumped out at us as like the best option for us.
Does it accept Apple and Google Pay?
I believe so. I can double check, but it does take, and I mean the fact that it takes PayPal would lead me to believe, but I can double check.
Any other questions? All right, I entertain a motion.
Sure. I move to approve the agreement and authorize the city manager to execute the contract with Paymentus for online payment processing.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion?
No.
Hearing none, do we have any public comment?
Mayor, we have no online public comments.
All right, we have a public comment out in the crowd. If you can come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Tricia Tremonti. I live on Isle of Palms. I just want to make sure before this is passed that I understand what they're saying. I buy a parking permit for the beach every year. I go into the city hall, I pay them cash, blah, 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 blah. Is all of this going to be turned to online? I'm still be able to come and buy a pass every year? Okay, because when my husband passed away, I became a dinosaur. I don't have any of that.
I believe you can
Because
still.
I've had problems with
Yeah,
it.
I believe you can still come here and pay in person, correct, Mike?
Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
So this is just one more option for people to take advantage of.
I think cash will always be king. I think you're safe.
Yeah. All right. Any other public comment? All right. Hearing none, roll call.
Mayor,
Yes?
I just wanted to tell you one thing real quick on this issue is it probably couldn't be better timing. The legislature has passed several bills, and one of the bills that I anticipate will go forward with the governor and will become law is actually going to demand that governments be able to take payment online. So you're actually ahead of the curve on this. I just want to let you know.
Just by a month or so, right?
So we're ahead of the curve leaping into the year 2000.
That's right.
Junko and I are just soothsayers. We just
Yeah,
we knew this
knew
was
it was coming. All right, roll call.
Commissioner Partridge?
Aye.
Commissioner Wetzel?
Aye.
Commissioner Toth?
Aye.
Commissioner Doctor?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye. Okay. Ordinance 2021-13, first reading to correct restrictive wording in Ordinance 2021-05.
Good evening again. I will actually be up here for a couple of the next few items, so hopefully you can get used to me a little bit, my ugly mug. Back in April, the commission approved Ordinance 2021-05, which among other actions appropriated funds to meet the increased permit volume in the building department. At that time, the city was only using our provider, MT Cosley, Safe Built, for these services, which is why the specific mention of that company didn't really jump out at us whenever we first passed the ordinance. However, now the city is using the services of a second firm, and in an abundance of caution, we felt that it was necessary to redo this ordinance just to take out the specific mention of any company so that the funds that have currently been appropriated can be spent with any duly qualified building services department that's under contract with the city. Like I said, as this ordinance is only changing the verbiage in Ordinance 2021-05, there's no budgetary impact. It's just allowing us to be able to spend the money on either of the two companies. Staff is asking that you schedule this item for a second reading and final approval at the June 15th, I think is the next regular meeting. And with that, if you guys have any questions, like I said, there's going to be three kind of similar items in a row. So if you have any questions about those, and Kathy is here too, if you guys have any building department questions.
Read the ordinance title.
Ordinance 2021-13, an ordinance of the City of Treasure Island, Florida, amending Ordinance 2021-05 to allow for the expenditure of city monies to any approved vendor in support of the planning and building programs, providing for severability, conflict, and an effective date.
Any questions for Mike?
No.
I'm going to start putting a post-it, shut up and let Jen talk.
I should catch that too, though. All right, no questions. Do we have a motion?
Sure. I move to approve ordinance number 2021-05, amending the initial language to allow for expenditure of funds to any of the city's vendors for building and planning services for the Community Development Department.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion?
So this will come back to us again? Yeah, because
Second
it's an
reading.
ordinance, okay.
Correct.
All right, any public comment?
Mayor, we have no online public comments.
All right, seeing no further public comment, we'll roll call, please.
Commissioner Partridge?
Aye.
Commissioner Wetzel?
Aye.
Commissioner Toth?
Aye.
Commissioner Doctor?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye. All right, item 9 is execution of an agreement with Joe Payne, Inc. for supplemental building department services for the Community Development Department.
And whenever I was mentioning that second company, this is that second company. As we just mentioned, last month we provided more funds to the building department to address the backlog of permits. Not only did staff have a long-term vacancy, but the company we had under contract didn't even have any of the required positions that we needed at that time they didn't have any on staff to lend us. So kind of a desperate time situation. So we reached out to one of the providers that responded to last year's RFP, who showed an eagerness to partner with the city. And not only were they eager that they had a position available, that they were willing to honor the prices that they quoted last year. So that's what the contract that's in front of you with the schedule is basically the exact same prices that Joe Payne Incorporated, or JPI, submitted with their bid last year. And they are still willing to honor those prices for this current term. It's basically the same contract that we signed with MT Cosley. It's just would be with a different vendor. Executing this contract will give the city another tool to address the most pressing issue in the building department by doubling the number of firms that we have for these services. Staff recommends the execution of this agreement and authorizing of the spending authority. Full disclosure, we have been working with them basically on a quotes and terms and conditions basis, but because we are almost certainly going to be passing the commission threshold, that's why we're bringing the contract to you to make sure we formally finalize everything and bring a second partner on hand. If you guys have any questions, I will happily address them right now, or if you have any other questions for Kathy, she's here too.
Any questions? All right, hearing none. Do we have a motion?
Sure. I move to approve and authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Joe Payne, Inc. for auxiliary building department services in the estimated amount of $75,600 for the fiscal year 2021.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? I just want to say that it is in no relation to my family, but I think it's a great name. So I'm sure they'll do wonderful work.
I was just laughing because an estimated amount that ends in 600 is usually they're round numbers for
Very
estimates, but hey,
close estimate.
we'll take it. That's a pretty specific estimate.
I'm very grateful that they have the capacity to help us, because it is definitely much needed. And are we satisfied with the work that they've been doing so far?
So far.
Yeah, I believe
It's still early.
They've only been on staff, like working for a week or week and a half, but so far so good.
But very responsive, so
Great.
we're pleased.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
No, I'm just glad to move things along with
Yes.
whatever we can do
Yep.
to help the building department.
All right, any public comment?
Mayor, we have no online public comments.
Okay. Roll call?
Commissioner Partridge?
Aye.
Commissioner Wetzel?
Aye.
Commissioner Toth?
Aye.
Commissioner Doctor?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye.
Thank you.
Item 10 is approve the execution of a renewal agreement with MT Cosley, a safe belt company, for building department services.
All right, good evening for the final time tonight from me. This item is the first amendment to the contract with MT Cosley Safe Built for year 2 of our current contract with them. We actually put a provision in the contract that it's a formula by which we calculate whatever rate increases can go up on a year-to-year basis. And as a result of that provision, that they have brought back a requested increase of only 1% across the board for their rates. And the city will also be getting some modifications to the terms and conditions that will be added to the agreement. The big kind of 4 changes, we've clarified the work assignments while on city property. There's a additional requirement to provide even more detailed backup for invoices and exactly what projects are being worked on. We've also expanded the regular hours to start at 7 a.m. rather than 8 a.m. Just kind of in line with a lot of the building activity too. And then finally, we have the meeting with the project manager, basically our account lead, once a month, just kind of a status update. Are we satisfied? It's basically a customer service monthly check-in meeting that they're scheduled with Kathy and other members of staff on a monthly basis, just to kind of a check-in status update sort of thing, of more of a customer satisfaction hour, at least once a month, to have a conversation with those. Staff recommends this amendment to the agreement to ensure access to both firms, the one that you guys have just approved, and a continuation with MT Cosley for building department services. And with that, if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions? What is our or the termination options on this contract?
I would venture, I don't know right off the top of my head, but most of our contracts have a 30-day for convenience and a 7-day for cause, typically.
Right.
So I know that the 30-day provision is almost certainly in the contract.
Okay. Any other questions?
That's one I always double check to make sure
Yeah.
it's in there for us.
All right, hearing no questions, do we have a motion?
Sure. I move to approve and authorize the city manager to execute the First Amendment to the RFP 20-001 with MT Cosley, Inc. for the building department services for the rate year beginning June 16th, 2021.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, I was just gonna say that I think we need to just it's been a rough year and we're in a rough spot with the building department. I know they're working, but they need all the help they can get. So I think we need to definitely keep a careful eye on this and make sure that it's to the most benefit of the city. And if we need to exercise that
Part of the
clause, then we need to go that route if we need to.
It's part of the reason why bundling these 3 items tonight, can I have that whole big conversation?
All right, any further discussion?
Nope.
All right, public comment?
Mayor, we have no online public comments.
All right, roll call?
Commissioner Partridge?
Aye.
Commissioner Wetzel?
Aye.
Commissioner Toth?
Aye.
Commissioner Doctor?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye. Okay, ordinance 2021-08, second reading, land development regulation amendments.
Okay, everyone get comfortable. Ordinance number 2021-08, an ordinance of the City of Treasure Island, Florida, amending the Land Development Regulations, Chapter 66, Floodplain Management by amending Section 66-101.2, Scope, Section 66-102.3, basis for establishing flood hazard areas, 66-102.3.1, submission of additional data to establish flood hazard areas, 66-103.2, general, 66-103.5, modifications of strict application of the requirements of the Florida Building Code, 66-103.7, inspections, 66-1038, other duties of the floodplain administrator, 66-103.9, floodplain management records, 66-104.3, application for a permit or approval, 66-105.1, information for development in flood hazard areas, 66-105.4, submission of additional data, 66-107.4, historic buildings, 66-107.5, functionally dependent uses, 66-107.5, considerations for issuance of variances, Article 2 definitions, 66-301.1, design and construction of buildings, structures, and facilities exempt from the Florida Building Code, 66-302.1, minimum requirements, 66-302.2, subdivision plats, 66-303.1, minimum requirements, 66-303.6, limitations on sites in coastal high hazard areas, Zone Z, 66-306.2, above-ground tanks not elevated, 66-307.2, concrete slabs used as parking pads and enclosure floors, landing decks, walkways, patios, and similar non-structural uses in a coastal high hazard areas, Zone V, 66-307.3, decks and patios in coastal high hazard areas, Zone V, 66-307.4, other developments in coastal high hazard areas, Zone V, 66-307.5, non-structural fill in coastal high hazard areas, Zone V. Article 2, definitions of Chapter 66, floodplain management, adding Section 66-301.4, accessory structures, and repealing Sections 66-106.1.3, manufactured homes, Division 4, manufactured homes, and providing for internal consistency, implementation of the new FEMA regulations, including adoption of regulations for the coastal A zone and for other purposes, providing for severability, providing for conflict, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
All right.
One more time?
Yeah. Kathy.
That's the last time for a couple of years. I just want to go over what I talked about the last time is this ordinance adopts the new flood maps that go into effect August 24th, 2021. And so I just wanted to go over the changes once more. I do have an update on the events that we're doing to help the public understand what's going on with their base flood elevation and their insurance. Overall, there are about 1,600 parcels within the city that will not have a change in base flood elevation, so that's good. There's 443 parcels in the cities that will have a base flood elevation that will increase, and 4,000 parcels that will have a base flood elevation that will decrease. And all that really means it's all based on insurance. And so your base flood is here. If your this is, well, we have a 2-foot freeboard. So let's say your base flood is here, and you build according to what you're supposed to build to, and FEMA says, okay, this is what we're gonna charge you for your insurance rates, but now your base flood increases, and your house is down here, which now you're in the flood zone, so that means your insurance will rise. Alternately, if your base flood decreases, your insurance rates decrease because your house is now higher up out of the flood zone, and that's why your insurance rates go down. We do have 3 events that we'll be going to. There is a Beaches Hurricane Expo that is happening tomorrow night that Jamie, our city planner, will be attending. And on May 20th, we will be at the Ready TI Hurricane Expo. And then on August 18th, there is a flood insurance seminar, and that is an overview of upcoming changes to FEMA's Firm and Risk Rating 2.0, and that's FEMA's new rating system methodology. And that is with Tim Everett, Risk Management Planning, Jay Colehouse, HH Insurance, and Mike Twitty, the property appraiser, will be there as well. I'll be there, and Jamie will be there, and the new city manager will be there.
Where is that?
I will let you know.
Okay.
What that is.
It's not. Is it in Treasure Island or somewhere
Yeah.
else? Oh, okay. Wonderful. Something we're hosting.
Yes.
Great.
So Mike Twitty is coming here. So I will, once the flyer is done, the flyer should be done by Thursday for the Ready TI seminar. So once that is done, then I will pass it out to everybody.
Great.
I'll give it to the clerk.
Thank
and
you.
She can hand it out. So that's the crust of this whole ordinance. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Kathy?
No.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I move to adopt ordinance 2021-08, amending a land development regulations, chapter 66, floodplain management at this second reading and final public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll open the public hearing. Do we have any public comment?
Mayor, we have no online public comments.
Okay. Seeing none in the room, we'll close the public hearing and take a roll call, please.
Commissioner Partridge?
Aye.
Commissioner Wetzel?
Aye.
Commissioner Toth?
Aye.
Commissioner Doctor?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Item 12 is ordinance 2021-09, second reading, amendment to Code of Ordinances, Chapter 8, Building Requirement, Regulations, and Fire Code.
Ordinance number 2021-09, an ordinance of the City of Treasure Island, Florida, amending the Treasure Island Code of Ordinances, Chapter 8, Building Regulations and Fire Code, Article 1 in general, Section 8-1, Building Codes, adopted to provide for updates to the current Florida Building Code, adopt and revise local administrative and technical amendments to the Florida Building Code, Building, and the Florida Building Code Residential, and implementation of the coastal A zone, providing for a fiscal impact statement, providing for severability, providing for conflict, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
Okay.
Thank
This is a statutory regulation updating Chapter 8.1 in the Code of Ordinance under building. And overall, it is specifically designed to amend local floodplain regulations, satisfy the National Flood Insurance Program regulations, coordinate with the Florida Building Code, and meet the requirements of Section 553 in the Florida statutes. And the regulations are, we have our local Florida Building Code ordinances, and we submit those to the state, and they go into our Code of Ordinances. Thank you, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Kathy? No. All right, seeing none, do we have a motion?
Sure. I move to approve ordinance 2021-09, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 8, Building Regulations and Fire Codes at this first reading, and with the second reading and public hearing to be held on May 18th, 2021.
This is the second
Oh,
reading.
this is the second
yeah.
reading.
Sorry.
Lots of, sorry about that. Do you want me to reread it?
Just at the second reading,
At
right?
this second reading.
Okay.
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing no discussion, we'll open the public hearing. Is there any public comment?
Mayor, we have no online public comments.
All right. Seeing none in the room, we'll close the public hearing and take a roll call, please.
Commissioner Partridge?
Aye.
Commissioner Wetzel?
Aye.
Commissioner Toth?
Aye.
Commissioner Doctor?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye.
you.
All right. Item 13 is approve interlocal agreement, Pinellas County Transportation Trust Fund.
So this item we discussed at the workshop at the last meeting. This interlocal agreement is for the third component of the local tax, the local county gas tax. And as I explained at the work session, there's the first cent, which is, we've already have that implemented here, and then there's an additional 1 to 6 cents that was levied. So that's where we have our current 7 cents per gallon. So it's not 7 cents on the price of the gas sold, but per gallon. So this request is an interlocal to design the administration and the distribution of the tax dollars should the Board of County Commission authorize the levy of this third piece of a county gas tax. And the third piece is up to an additional 5 cents. So it can go from 7 cents to 12 cents, but that would be something that the Board of County Commissioner is the only authority that levies the actual tax. So this interlocal agreement is to all of the municipalities, and it's basically an agreement that designs the administration and the distribution of the funding, which is how the current 7 cents of the county gas tax is being distributed. So it's just kind of keeping that the same as it currently is today. So it's 60% of the levy will go to the county and 40% to the municipalities, and it's divided up according to population. So that's what this interlocal does. I think that there was an email sent, distributed from the mayor of city of Seminole. With some concerns. It was addressed by the county in summation, and that email was all shared with you. In summation, some of the points that the county administrator was making is that this tax, because it is a per gallon tax, it has declined over the years. So it has gone down while our road and street system maintenance needs continue to grow. And this is countywide. This additional tax is kind of like a user fee because it's not a property tax. It's a tax sold on gallons sold. And so therefore, a large amount of that is handled or covered and paid by our tourists. And they do have a burden on our road system and transportation system throughout the county. This additional amount of money would bring in $54 million into the county's system to maintain the roads. And if you extrapolate that to what that means to the city of Treasure Island, it's roughly about $35,000 additionally that we would get. Right now, we're getting about $95,000 annually. So it would be about $130,000 rather than $95,000 in our county gas tax fund to help us maintain our roads, which is woefully insignificant because the county gas tax says our needs in the city for maintaining our roads, it only covers about 1/3 of our need. So you can imagine countywide what their needs probably are as well. So again, this isn't to levy the tax, but by approving this interlocal, you're kind of indirectly supporting it. But it's not to levy it, it's interlocal to design the distribution and the administration of the funds, should it be levied by the Board of County Commissioners. I'd
Okay.
be happy to address any questions.
Any questions for Amy? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
Sure. I move to approve the interlocal agreement with Pinellas County and authorize the mayor to execute the agreement.
Second.
Any discussion?
I think that the response from this county to that letter was pretty laid out things that the reality of it, nobody wants higher taxes necessarily, but I think that for the benefit that should the county decide to approve it, that the benefit the county would receive and the city would receive from all of the users, especially the other users who come in and utilize our roads and damage our roads along with the rest of us, that it for average of $27 per vehicle per year is definitely worth it. So I'm okay with this, and I like spreading the costs out, and especially to those people who come and enjoy our facilities.
I just think it's unfortunate timing with gas prices, but that just is the way things work sometimes. I just want to just encourage us as we move forward with this, that we continue to look at electric vehicles as being welcomed on our streets, and so we're giving people other options if they do find it to be burdensome. That we had a discussion about electric scooters and things, and I think it's easy to jump into saying let's put a lot of regulation in things, and we should be reactive when we have a problem. But then also this is a good time to remind us that the more options we can invite to our residents that are non-gas options for transportation, we kind of want to keep that on the forefront of consideration as we move forward.
Any other discussion?
No, I think it's a wise way to put the user fee on to the user. And like some of us, now that I'm teleworking, I'm barely buying a tank of gas a month and a half.
Yeah.
So I don't use the roads that much, so it seems to work pretty well that way as far as users go, instead of just us as property owners having to shell out more money.
Some of the city managers that were copied on the email from the Seminole City the Seminole City clerk, the city managers have been replying to give updates as other commissions have approved or denied it. So Seminole rejected it. Safety Harbor, Dunedin, Bel Air, and Largo so far have all approved it, and that's all that have responded to that email. So just wanted to update you guys on that.
Thank you for that.
The approval is based on population too, right? It's like if
distribution.
City of St. Petersburg approves it, it's a big chunk of the population.
Correct. Yeah. So if Largo and St. Pete and Clearwater approved it. So.
Good point.
I was surprised that less.
They're all waiting on you.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I was surprised that less than 0.5% of registered vehicles here are electric. That was.
Less than 0.5
It's in that letter.
in Pinellas County.
Yeah. I was surprised at that as well, as how few there really are.
Interesting. All right. Any public comment?
Mayor, we have no online public comments.
Are you sure, public?
I am really sure.
All right. Anyone in the room have any comments? All right. Hearing none, we will take a roll call.
Commissioner Partridge?
Aye.
Commissioner Wetzel?
Aye.
Commissioner Toth?
Aye.
Commissioner Doctor?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
No. All right. I think that was the last thing on their agenda, so we'll adjourn for, say, about 5 minutes and reconvene at 8:10 for our workshop.